So, hi everyone. My name is Narmeen Saad, and I am the Director of the Global Entrepreneurship and the Startup Visa Program with Northforge Technology Exchange. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting virtually on the ancestral lands on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional gathering place of the Anishinaabe Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dani people, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis people. Thank you all for joining us in our monthly Startup Visa Program Roundtable where we will be hosting a reputable expert in the immigration field to share the latest trends and useful insight around the startup visa program. Our agenda for today is we're going to start with a welcoming note and North Forge introduction by our president, CEO, and co-founder Joel Foster. And then we're going to start a discussion by our reputable keynote speaker, Ahmed Elzoghbi, RCIC. And then we will be opening for the Q&A. Please feel free to open all your questions in the Q&A tab. I will be following up on the chat and the Q&A tab so that I will be working with you to understand what's your question, if there's any concern around your question, and then we will deliver it to our speaker so that he will answer for you. So to kick us off today, I would like to welcome Northforge President, CEO, and co-founder Joel Foster to the stage to provide you with a bit of background about Northforge and its international expansion. Joel, please, I will leave it to you to introduce yourself, introduce Northforge. Thank you. Joel, you are muted.
Okay. I thought it went off automatically. I apologize. Good morning to some of you. Good evening to others. As Nermeen mentioned, I am Joelle Foster, and I have been in entrepreneurship for about 2 decades now. I started when I was 10. So I have worked with over 500 companies across Canada. And one of my biggest successes was starting Northforge with 3 other individuals and then coming on as president and CEO 4 years ago. Northforge is a technology incubator accelerator, and we're located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. We also run one of the largest fabrication labs or maker spaces in North America. I oversee about 31,000 square feet of innovation space, and we work with advanced manufacturing, STEM, and tech startups. We do work with entrepreneurs right across Canada, and we went global last year. Our startup visa program that we have is unique in that we have created over 50 on-demand webinars for individuals that are looking to start their business in Canada, but also to excel their tech expertise. And this is something that we have done because we have a unique insight. Nermeen is absolutely one of the most incredible individuals that I have ever worked with. She herself has come through the startup visa program. She understands the challenges. She's an entrepreneur. She is an engineer. She was named as one of the top 100 most influential Arabic women in the world by Forbes for 3 years in a row. So you are incredible, in incredible hands with her. And at Northforge, you can come anywhere in Canada. Would we like you to come to Manitoba? Yes, it's an amazing province. We were named as one of the top cities in Canada to raise your children. We were the third most influential city in terms of welcoming newcomers. And you can afford a beautiful home here. And we do have 4 distinct seasons, which is absolutely incredible. But at Northforge, I want you to know that if you decide to work with us, that we truly care about your idea, and we are going to challenge you on your ideas. We're going to make sure that we're doing those gap analysis where you need help because we want to see your business succeed. Your success is our success. We are a not-for-profit, and we stand by that. We are in this to help others. At the end of the day, We are all newcomers here in Canada. We are visitors on this land. I'm sure you understand for the dynamics with the Indigenous and reconciliation. So I'm a second generation coming from the Ukraine and Austria, and the challenges that we've all faced with our family. My husband was born actually in another country as well. We want to help you navigate those. So I just want to welcome you. I've put my LinkedIn in the chat, and I'm here to help you in any way possible. So back to you, Nermeen.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Joelle, for this beautiful introduction. And by the way, for everyone, Joelle is the best person that you will ever meet in your life. She's a very warm, most intelligent leader that I have ever worked with. So it was really my pleasure joining North Forge and working closely with her. She's a very helpful and well-connected person all across Canada. In our startup visa program, we don't mandate anyone to stay in Manitoba, although we would love everyone to be with us, but you can live wherever you want. However, wherever you select which province you want to settle in, North Forge and Joelle has connections for you to support you in that province, no matter where you prefer to go. So thank you very much, Joelle, for this beautiful introduction. And now we want to introduce our keynote speaker for today. So it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this morning. We have a distinguished immigration expert, Ahmed Elzoghbi. Mr. Ahmed Elzoghbi has a degree in Canadian immigration law. He studied business management in Denmark and Canada. He pursued further studies at McGill University. Being a human rights advocate, Mr. Elzoghbi started his career by working for the Red Cross. Mr. Elzoghbi received awards for his work from governmental and non-governmental organizations. He was hosted in some TV meetings and radio shows by Canadian and international media. He equally hosts his channel on YouTube, where he shares a variety of topics, including integration in Canada for foreigners. Mr. Zogby has excellent understanding of investors' immigration streams, needs. He started to work on startup visa program since 2019. He is a member of the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants, as well as member of the Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants. He is also the founder of Zogby Immigration Firm that is based in Montreal, Canada. So, Ahmed, thank you very much for sparing this time to be with us and with our audience. I would like to invite you to open your mic and camera and join me on the stage.
Thank you, Nermeen, for the great introduction. Thank you, Joel. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to be in touch with amazing people from all over the world. And it will be a pleasure to help today in sharing some of the information and insights about the updates. And let's start it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we are super excited about today's roundtable. So, Ahmed, I'm going to close my camera and mic and we'll leave the stage for you to share your screen and kick off your presentation. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, hello everybody again, and today we will navigate the Canadian Startup Visa program. And the agenda for this presentation will be to go through the common refusal reasons for Startup Visa program. We will talk about the update request and how to avoid scams and what to do, what not to do. And at the end, we will talk about, we will answer some of your questions as well. Before we start, I would like to know from you your expectations about the Startup Visa program. As you know, the Startup Visa program is designed to attract the innovative ideas, to help the entrepreneurs who have these ideas to come to Canada. But my question is, do you think that the RCIC expect you to have more innovation idea or to be more entrepreneur person? What's your expectation? Think about that question and you will answer that question yourself after we finalize this presentation. So let's start with the common refusal reasons for the Startup Visa program. These are the common reasons. It's not all the reasons, so it's including but not limited to style. The first common reason is the absence of innovation or promise. In Startup Visa program, we want to see innovation. We want to see that this idea will have an opportunity to expand and to have economical influence in the Canadian society, not a traditional project or a traditional idea. There might be a notable benefit to Canada. You have to show that to the officer, to the immigration officer. And before that, of course, you have to show that the innovation or the economical promise to the incubator as well to receive your letter of support before applying to the permanent residency. So the absence of innovation is one of the main reasons of rejecting the application. The second reason will be inadequate financial proof. It is not enough to have the best idea if you don't have the financial ability to build that idea and convert it to a successful business. Most of you know that the Startup Visa program doesn't have a minimum investment requirement like the other investment and immigration programs. But here we need to see that you have the financial capability, you and your partner, if you have one, to build that business. So having the needed fund is very important in this stage. The third reason is the unsuitable business model. Try to imagine that you have an innovative idea and you have the fund to build that idea, but you don't provide a business model. You don't know how to generate cash flow from that idea and build a successful business. It is not enough to have the idea. It is not enough to have the amount of fund. You have also to be able to show that you have the ability to contribute to the Canadian economy. We have to show that we can generate cash flow. Okay. I want you to remember something. Yes, the PR application is not tied to the business success, but if the business completely failed before the PR process is completed, there might be a different scenario. In other words, you are not granted the PR application because you have a successful business, but because you are trying to build a successful business. You have to show that. The fourth reason will be the failure to provide the medical or security check. And I would say that this reason is one of the reasons that we can avoid, because this reason can be, categorized as the pre-assessment before applying to the startup visa. If you have medical condition and you know that this medical condition might be an obstacle before applying to the immigration, so you have to avoid applying. If you have a security problem within your police certificate, you have to avoid applying. So failure to provide a medical clearance or a security clearance is one of the reasons, unfortunately. And this reason could be avoided from the beginning. Another thing is the incomplete documentation. And I would say this is the most common reason for the rejection of application. Some candidates think that they can apply to save time, to apply quickly as soon as possible, and then they can update the file with the missing information or the missing document. No, this is not the way that happens. Because to update the file, you have to have a file number. And you don't have a file number before you have a complete file. So your file have to be complete from the beginning, including the language proficiency test. The language proficiency test is one of the main reasons of incomplete documentation submission. Try as much as you can to provide all the information, all the details, all the documents. And speaking about the language proficiency test, unfortunately, one of the things that happened to some candidates is that they got refused because inadequate language skills. However, they provide a language test. That happens usually because misunderstanding. The RCC wants to see a minimum of CLB 5, Canadian Language Benchmark, in your language proficiency test. And some candidates think that CLB 5 is the overall for the test. So they submit the application with overall CLB 5. But the IRCC wants to see a minimum of CLB 5 in each skill, not overall. So you might have, for example, CLB 3 in writing, CLB 6 in speaking, and the overall is CLB 5. Your file will be rejected, unfortunately. So you have to have CLB 5 in each skill, not overall. The seventh one is the alternation in circumstances. And that happens usually when you have a partner. When you have a partner, some circumstances might be changed, especially when you have more than one partner. As you know, the processing time for startup visa is a long time, 37 in average, 37 months in average. So in 37 months, a lot of things could be happening, especially when we are talking not only about one family, but maybe four families. So one of your partner might say, well, I'm not interested anymore in continuing this application. Another might say, well, I have an offer to work in a big company, for example, in the Gulf area, and I will not continue my process in immigration to Canada. And this is when bad things happen, alternation in circumstance, especially when some of the partners have dispute about the business model. Business model can be changed, okay, minor change, but a complete pivot in the business model might result in the application refusal. It actually might result in withdrawal of the letter of support from the designated entity. Non-adherence to the program criteria. Not only the program criteria, but the immigration criteria in general. And what I mean by that is, for example, providing some false information or misrepresentation or provide fake documents could lead, of course, to rejection. Now, some errors might be happen, and these errors not relevant to you, not relevant to your application, not relevant to your representative, maybe relevant to the IRCC. Sometimes errors happen. And one of these examples is the LMIA exemption code. Before 2022, we have a code that we use for the LMIA exemption when we apply for the work permit for startup visa candidates. And unfortunately, before 2022, some candidates got refused because they used their own code. However, the code that they used was the same code provided on the IRCC website. So that error now solved, and the correct exemption code is now A77. And that checklist not include all the information the IRCC officers need to see when applying, especially for the work permit. For example, when you are applying for the work permit, you will not be asked for a travel history, right? But you have to provide information about your travel history. These documents about travel history are not included in the checklist, but some candidates could be refused for not having travel history. The most important one is failing to provide updates. And this is the most crucial reason that you have to be prepared for. For the updates, we usually have two ways on requested updates. You don't do the updates automatically unless it's a major change. Personal information, someone got divorced, someone having a new baby, for example. That's when you provide updates. We usually receive these requests by two means. The first one is by email. It will be a document needed letter or by a call. And unfortunately, sometimes this will be unscheduled call. Imagine after waiting for 15 months or so, you got a call and it's the IRCC officer asking you about some questions. So you have to be prepared, really. So the documents needed later will be relevant to your immigration application, relevant to your partner, if you have one, relevant to the business. The call might be relevant to your personal information or relevant to the business. And let's take some examples. So for the document needed letter, when it comes to your immigration application, sometimes the officer will request a new Schedule A. So Schedule A is one of the things that been requested, especially when you provide a personal history with gaps. So in the PR application, there is a personal history section, and you have to fill that with no gaps. Or if you have a criminal record, criminal record, or if you work for the military or have a military service before. Police certificate, that's one of the things that you should expect to have. The medical examination, a new medical examination. Not usually. I would say that the most common things is Schedule A and the police certificate for the immigration application. However, if we are talking about the document needed, the most common document needed will be relevant to the business. So here the officer will want to see what have you done within this processing time. Is there a brand development? Do you have a website, or you established a social media and start to make brand awareness? Do you have professional network, especially if you have a work permit and you came to Canada? Did you receive any grants or business loans? Did you make your market research or analysis? Do you have some consultations with business advisors? Do you have a partner? What is your partner net worth? And again, I know that one of the things that makes startup visa very attractive to the entrepreneurs is that you don't have to provide a minimum investment or a net worth amount. However, you have to have an adequate amount of fund to establish your business. Is there any growth in your business? Is there IP process, intellectual property, happened for your concept or your idea? Did you reach yet the MVP, the minimum viable product stage, or not? So these are some of the things that you might receive from the officer. Some of the examples as well. Depends on the business and depends on the idea that you have. Again, these are some of the examples. These are not all, of course, the questions that you might receive. The officer might ask about the manufacturing process if your idea has a manufacturing component within it. He might ask about the financial status again from you or your partner. He might ask about the investors. Do you have another investors who are not including in the startup visa application? Are these relevant somehow to the incubator? Did you pay the incubator any fees? Show me the receipts. Is there any legal entity that represent that business outside of Canada, especially in your country of origin? Do you register that business before? Is there any critical aspect of the business operation will be carried out in Canada or outside Canada? So you have to be prepared for everything. And if you receive a call, again, you have to be prepared because sometimes this interview will be unscheduled. This call might be unscheduled. The officer might ask about your information, about your business, about aspects within that business, like the technology model, for example. He or she can ask about you and your partner. How did you meet your partner? So these are the things that you have to be prepared for. Also, if there is no sales yet, if there is no sales, the officer will ask, what have you been doing through these 15, 16, 20 months? I would say that the main reason for this call is two things. The officer wants to know if you really know what you applied for, because a lot of people applied for startup visa without knowing what is startup visa about. So the officer wants to know first, did you know exactly what you applied for? And the second thing, he wants to know that you are the right person, the right candidate for what you applied for. So these are the main reasons why the officer will call you. So the RCC wants to make sure that the founders are serious about starting the business and they have complete understanding of what their actual business model is, their strategy, and the plan for becoming a permanent resident of Canada. So it's a good thing to get familiar with some terminology. And I know that in other countries, you might have different terminologies. You have to get familiar with these terminology and be ready to, answer questions relevant to these. For example, if the officer asks you about the key buyer persona, he's asking you about your target clients or target customers. If you reach the MVP stage, what is the MVP feature that you have? Will you have a beta version? What is the competitive analysis between you and the other competitor in the market? Did you have any customer validation? Do you have a feedback survey? If you have a technology side in that business, do you have a technology plan? Did you have architecture roadmap? Now, the expectations from you is different when you have a work permit. When you have a work permit, expect that the officer wants to hear more, wants to see more proofs, because now you have the opportunity to come to Canada, right? So if you have the opportunity to come to Canada, that means that you have the opportunity to make more contribution to your business. So if you have a work permit, but you did nothing within the last year, that means that we have troubles here, right? So when you have a work permit, a valid one, based on a startup visa application, you have to provide more proofs. You have to show the officer more insights about your business. Now I want to set some expectations with you. As you know, on average, the startup visa application might take 37 months. And within the 37 months, you might receive that request for the information or that call in the beginning, or maybe on the month number 30 or 31, right? So you have to be prepared, because for any request for documents, you will have a deadline. It is not an open duration. When you receive an email request you to provide some documents, the officer will give you a deadline. This deadline usually 30 days from the letter. However, we receive some requests within 7 calendar days. It's not even 7 business days, 7 calendar days. So imagine if you are not well prepared, what will happen after waiting that long time? You will caught off guard, right? So you have to be well prepared for any updates, for any documentation requested by the IRCC. However, the startup visa program has a very good approval rate, actually, 78% on average. 78% is an approval rate that is more than the acceptance rate for study permits. The study permits are lower than 78%. Can you imagine? Yet, some of the applicants choose to withdraw their applications. Why? Because it takes so long to receive a letter from the IRCC. And some to choose to withdraw the application soon if they believe that they will receive a rejection or a procedure fairness letter. So, for example, someone applied for a startup visa and it's been 4 months And now he find out that he apply using an IELTS exam, for example, with a CLB 5 overall, but CLB 3 in writing. So he knows that in some stage, the officer will return the file for being incomplete. So to avoid waiting that long time, some choose to withdraw the application, complete their application, and apply again. And speaking about the acceptance rate, and this state from 2014 till 2023, till November actually. 2021 was a great year. 2016 as well was a great year. 2022 and 2023 similar somehow, 78%. But why some applications are getting refused? Of course, because the common reason, but is there any factors that could, increase the refusal rates? Is the education, for example? If we go through the education level for the applicants through these years, we will find that there is no big change between someone with a bachelor degree and someone with a postgraduate diploma and someone with a PhD. Okay, and as a disclaimer, these include the accompanying family member as well. So you will find none for some education. So there is no big change in the acceptance or refusal rate based on education. So it might be another factor. Numbers give you a great insight about the facts. That's why I love numbers. So if we go to another factor like age, we will find that candidates who have 70 and over years old have a greater refusal rate. Why is that? Is it a discrimination? Is it against les personnes âgées, senior citizens? Or is it because other factors? Maybe because the medical examination, for example? Or maybe because the officer not assured that the applicant will be manage the business on day-to-day operation. And that's the core of the startup visa. You have to understand that. The RCIC needs you to be a real entrepreneur, to be involved in the business. The more involvement a founder has in the project, the better their chances of success are. It's an amazing thing to have innovative idea. And that's the answer for the question that we asked in the beginning. Do you think that the RCIC expect you to be more innovative or more an entrepreneur? It's a great thing to be Nikola Tesla, right? But the RCIC expects you to be Thomas Edison, an entrepreneur who has a great idea and he is involved in the business and he has a real business model and can contribute positively in the Canadian economy to generate income. That's what we need. That's what the RCIC officer expect from you. And finally, we will talk about some tips and takeaways. Now, as you know, every immigration program has its requirements, has its eligibility criteria. All the information are provided on the official RCIC website. Try, even if you choose to have a representative, to know exactly what are the eligibility criteria for that program. Try to develop a business plan, detailed one. Okay, detailed one that has a very strong business model. That's a very important thing. And try to be responsible. Try to pursue your immigration application, I would say, ethically. Don't try to hide anything. Don't try to, alter any information. Try to be clear. When you have an issue that you think that it might be a weak point, try to explain it to the officer. And in Canada, the immigration officers will appreciate your honesty and might have a discretion, a positive discretion for you. But if they think that you are trying to hide anything, they will refuse the application without thinking. So don't do that. Try to provide all the information truthfully. And if you seek guidance, try to seek that guidance from a reputable immigration consultant or a lawyer. On the other hand, try to not engage in a business with an authorized representative. We see that in overseas agencies, people try to scam people, try to provide false information, mislead them with the false information, and giving them contracts without names of the representative, without the name of the immigration consultant or the lawyer, without their number, the license number. So you have to know exactly who are you dealing with. You will establish an entity in Canada. So you have to know from the beginning who you are dealing with. Don't provide any false information or document, of course. And I would say, if you will apply for a work permit, try to avoid putting a high salary in your offer of employment. Now, the employment offer is one of the main things that you will provide when you apply for a work permit through the startup visa application. And within that offer, you can put a salary. When you put a great salary, a big salary, like for example, let's say you put 100K, for example, okay, and then the business didn't make that much. Now that's a negative point, right? Because you expect to pay a high salary, yet the business didn't make it. Now, if you put a low salary or maybe no salary for your offer of employment, and then you pay yourself a salary, that's that's a positive point, because you are telling the officer, I expect nothing, but now, well, there is a cash flow that I can pay myself. That's a good thing. So avoid putting a high salary in your offer of employment. Also avoid any fake transactions. That's a no-no. Any fake transactions to show the officer that you have a cash flow or there is sales in your business, that's a billing scheme, and that's a misrepresentation, and you could be banned for 5 years. So don't do any fake transactions. If you have a real transactions, your business have real transactions, now that's a good thing. Try to provide proofs per year. What I mean is, don't wait the officer to come at the month number 31 and telling you provide the transactions for your business for the last 2 years, and you have 7 days to provide them. So try to have these transactions handy in case the officer requests them. And lastly, please be aware of the scammers. Please try to get the information from the right sources. And I will tell you that not because I'm an immigration consultant, but as a Canadian, and I think that Nermina and Joel will share that opinion with me. We need you to come to Canada. We need hard-working entrepreneurs who have great ambition, who have ideas. We want you to immigrate and have that business success. We have a lot of problems here, and we need you to help us to solve these problems. So we being really devastated when we see some of the hardworking entrepreneurs get scammed or misled by false information. So these are the most common thing that you have to be aware of. Okay, there are more, but they are the most common, again, including but not limited to. So the first thing is deceptive assurance of guaranteed results. Someone approached you and tell you that it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed that I will get you the letter of support. It's guaranteed that I will get you the work permit. It's guaranteed that you apply and you do nothing, and you will have the permanent residency. The word guaranteed raise some questions. It's a red flag. Okay, so nothing guaranteed. You have to make effort. You have to be involved in the business to have higher approval rate, and that's the first thing. The second thing is fake designated entities. And to be honest, in January 2023, it was the first time to know that there is fake designated entity overseas, of course. Someone incorporated a company and called it Canadian something incubator. That's the name of the company. They market that company as an entity that help people to have a letter of support to immigrate to Canada. And because the candidate doesn't know what the meaning of designated entity for the startup visa and doesn't know anything about what is the letter of support that they expect to see, they got scammed, right? So as I told you, everything is listed on the official website, on the RCIC website. In the RCIC website, you will find the list of the designated entity that are authorized to provide you with the letter of support. And of course, Northforge is one of them. And the letter of support is not it's not a letter, it is a form, an immigration form, official form that will be provided by the incubator to you to include it in your permanent residency application. And another copy, which is commitment certificate, will be sent directly to the RCC. That's the meaning of letter of support. If you know this information from the beginning, you will not get scammed. So again, please try to know the criteria of the program, try to know the requirements, and try to read more about that amazing immigration program. The third thing is the identity misappropriation. Misappropriation in general is forbidden, like the billing scheme. But when we are talking about the identity misappropriation, we can find that some scammers could use the name and the license number of a good lawyer or a good immigration consultant through a sponsored ad on Facebook. Try to contact the representatives, either they are lawyers or immigration consultants, from their official website. That will provide you somehow with assurance that you are contacting the right person, not someone who is stealing their identities. The fourth thing, interesting thing to know, that some overseas agencies, unauthorized of course, trying to make things easier for the candidates in order to scam as much people as they could. So they are telling you that we have a project, a great idea that could lead to a guaranteed, right? A guaranteed letter of support, and of course, a guaranteed permanent residency application. We have 3 families on board, and we still need 2 because in startup visa you can have up to 5 partners. So that's why some overseas agents called it past project. And it's not working that way. It's not a road trip. It's not a road trip to Disneyland. We have 5 seats, 3 complete, and we have 2 more available. No, your partner must be a real partner for a business. It is not working that way. It is not a 50K ticket to Canada. It is not working that way. So, and I think if someone, attending this event from overseas, he might know that this somehow happened. So be aware of that. The last thing is unreasonable payments. I would say that this item is not relevant to the unauthorized representative or the scammers but there is a reasonable payment for everything, even if in the immigration field. And yes, everyone has the right to, put the price tag for his work or her work, but there is a reasonable payment. One of my colleagues once said that she had a client, and that client told her that he'd been contacted, a firm, overseas firm, and requested to pay 500K, the professional fees. That's a huge number. That's unreasonable number. So try to be aware of the unreasonable payment as well. So that was everything. These are the common refusal reasons. Thank you so much. And now it's the question time.
Thank you very, very much, Ahmed, for this informative and comprehensive presentation. It is really well needed. As a designated organization and as a person in charge for this program, I hear lots of what you have already presented, and I'm happy that people and most of the attendees here are people almost. I think that they are applicants. They maybe face some of what you have already said. I have seen it in many discussions with many of the applicants. So thank you very much for raising this awareness to our applicants. So now we have, oh boy, God be with you. We have a list of questions that we want you to share your knowledge and your expertise in answering them. So the first question is saying, so if the checklist is not reliable, he's talking about the PR checklist, okay? Then how to know the required information for either PR or the work permit application? Is there another source that applicants can go through?
Okay, so what I meant by the checklist about the for the work permit application through the startup visa. It is not the PR application, but the work permit application. So the work permit application has a checklist, and this checklist is the basic information or the basic document that you have to provide, but it's not everything that you have to provide. For example, you have to provide some information about the travel history, as we said. So these are some of the things that you have to take care of.
Interesting. Okay, the other question says, can an applicant bring a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, or it is just like solely for the spouse and the children?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. I would say that it depends on the stage. So if we are talking about the stage of applying for the permanent residency, you are allowed to include your immediate family member, which is your spouse and your dependent children. However, if you become a permanent resident, you are now allowed to sponsor your father or your mother, your grandfather or your grandmother. Sometimes you can sponsor your sister or your brother, but that depends on the situation. There are some, some exception for that. But generally, you cannot include anybody in the application except your immediate family members.
Interesting. So, by the way, for the person who asked this question, here's the information of to contact Mr. Elzoghbi immediately via email, and maybe you're gonna have like a discussion with him to have like a specific answer for your certain situation. So the other question is, there is a 36-month processing time. Do you see IRCC asking for new documents that expire, such as the language tests, the police certificates? All these expires within, for example, the police certificate is within 6 months. The IELTS is within 2 years, right? So if it
Right.
is 36, it's a really interesting question.
Yes, that's a very good question as well. Honestly, I didn't see an immigration officer request a new proof of language because it has to be valid when we apply for the permanent residency. But I didn't see that request before, but I see, of course, a new police certificate request a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So the other question is, what are the other documents that need to be submitted in the PR application that is not included in the checklist? I think that you have gone through this a little bit, but if you just like briefly.
Yes, I would say that if you have incorporated your business before in other country, try to include that incorporation in the business. Try to include any proof that that business made a positive contribution to the country where the business was incorporated in, and it most likely to contribute positively in Canada as well. That's one of the examples. So it depends on the situation, on the criteria of the applicants. We would say, well, you need to add these documents or not based on the situation.
Interesting. So there's a question that came to my private chat. So they're asking, so we ask for the IELTS, right? So the IELTS has to be submitted by the main applicants, right? So the spouse and any children, let's say above 18, do they have also to submit an IELTS while applying for the PR and the work permit, or it is solely for the main applicant?
No, it's only for the main applicant.
Interesting.
We have two measures to for assessment, right? So the first measure is to make an assessment whether the candidate is eligible to apply for a startup visa or not. That's the first measure, and here's where it comes the language proof. For the accompanying family member, the relationship proof is the base of the assessment. It is not their language or their work experience or so.
Interesting. That's good. That will solve lots of my applicants' problems because this is a very common question.
Yeah.
So the other question is, what are possible pitfalls of not engaging professional consultant in case a business wish to go for a die model?
Yeah. Well, I would say that if you have a professional consultant with you, um, you might, avoid some of the requests that it could be received in the future because of that experience. But if you really know what you are doing, if you really read more and know more about what could you expect in the future for your idea, you will be good. Now, the thing is, the immigration programs and the immigration criteria are changing fastly. If you are aware of the updates from the IRCC, you will notice that a lot of updates were happen in the last couple of months. So within 30 months, there will be a lot to follow. If you are not follow that and have a close eye for for everything, uh, God forbid you will receive something that you're not prepared for.
Interesting. And I would love to add in here, Ahmed, and I think that you will agree with me, is that we should be aware of what is the meaning of a professional consultant. Because lately, what I'm seeing is that, for example, a previously accepted startup visa program applicant is becoming a consultant, and he's starting to, give his own experience and bringing more people according to his own experience. And this is very tricky and this is very dangerous, right? Because it's a case by case situation. And if you were accepted, for example, Ahmed, because you have XYZ setup, it may not fit my situation. And unfortunately, people are following. So maybe you, Ahmed, just like let us know what kind of a professional consultant. How do I know that, for example, Nermeen is the right person or X person is the right person? Maybe like a little bit of context about this.
Yes, a word of mouth, of course, will be very important in this case. But as you said, it is not enough that the immigration professional, whether he is a lawyer or immigration consultant, depend on his cases only. There are a lot of cases that been accepted for certain reason or refused for certain reason within his professional network, there are a lot of cases that been, went through the federal court. It might not be the immigration consultant or lawyer cases, but he has to be aware of these cases as well. So yes, the knowledge of what happened in the market is very important. And as I said, one of the things that the applicant should search for, the word of mouth from a previous maybe candidate.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. The other question is, can you please tell us where in the PR and the work permit applications should we submit our pitch deck, business plan, and financial projections? It seems that in the application itself, there is no specific place that asks you to provide these. So where they should apply, submit these documents?
Yeah, there is a category within the application called business documents, or you can upload it to the other documents and write an explanation letter that you included the documents, the supportive documents in that category.
Interesting. Okay, the other one is so again, here they are asking about the work permit. So, documents recommended by RCIC to submit for the work permit application is your business plan. So, in the IRCC recommended, they say make sure it shows what you have done to start business operation after you got your commitment certificate. So they are asking, could you please clarify a little bit what is the main request, what they have to, what is the highlights that has to be answering what they need from you when you submit your business plan?
Yeah, I would say that it depends on the time frame. So if I recently have my letter of support and immediately apply for a work permit, maybe that time is only enough for incorporating my business and I didn't do anything else. And that's the first step, right? Or I incorporated my business, I applied for the startup visa application, and then I applied for the work permit. That's everything that I've done. I didn't do anything more. But if I applied for the work permit after 1 year, right, of receiving the letter of support, now I have to show more progress to establish my business. For example, I incorporated the business, I applied for the PR through the startup visa application, and I have a team right now working uh, on the technology roadmap. Right? We will make an application, and we try now to make the architecture roadmap. So it depends on the time. Maybe I applied for the work permit after 2 years, right? So I finalized my application. I launched the application on Google Apps, or Google Play, or Apple App, Apple Store, App Store, and now we start to generate income. So I have receipts of sales, right? I have generated income. So these documents is based on the time frame between receiving the letter of support and applying for the work permit.
Interesting. But Ahmed, I want to share with you something because it confuses me, this question as well.
Mhm.
So now while you are explaining, I think that this specific explanation will include your extension for your work permit. So basically, if I am an applicant, I am getting my letter of support from you. I'm going
Mhm.
to apply today, right?
Yes,
Why do I have to get my letter of support if I'm not going to apply for my PR and work permit, right? So
exactly.
basically, for the first work permit, this is my understanding, and please confirm. This is what I understand. So basically, when I get my letter of support for the first application for my work permit, basically there is nothing to add because there is no time between the commitment certificate and work permit. And this section has to be filled after when you are asking for an extension after 1 year, right?
Right, right.
Perfect.
So the letter of support is valid for 6 months, right? And we have to apply for the startup visa as well as the work permit within these 6 months, right? And when you granted the letter of support, you've been told by the incubator that we need you to come to Canada urgently. That's why we apply for the work permit.
Yeah.
But in some cases, the entrepreneurs want to make a fundraising, and sometimes they have to meet and travel from a country to a country to fundraise their project. Sometimes they have a delay more than 6 months before applying for the work permit. That's when they have to explain why they apply in a late date. So it depends on the time frame.
Interesting. Okay, so I have this frequent question. So, if a founder is applying for a permanent residency, so we have a case, an applicant, he don't want to come through a work permit. They want to stay in their home country until the PR is issued, and then they will come. Okay.
Okay.
So basically, in our commitment certificate, for me, when I apply, there's a section that is included for the due diligence part. For me, as a designated organization, I have to verify that the company or the applicant has to provide two kind of a proof of funds, the settlement and the business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when those founders they go to the PR application because they are not interested in the work permit at the moment, they cannot find in the checklist that they have to provide a proof of business funds. And the question is, if I'm not applying for a work permit, then do founder require to show personal funds to support the business in addition to the settlement funds? Does the due diligence differs if I am planning to come a work permit or not?
Yes, that's an interesting question, actually. So the work permit is optional. You don't have to apply for a work permit to have a successful PR application through the startup visa. However, when we are talking about the funds, there are two proof of funds. The first one is the settlement funds. The second one is the business fund. And this is a very important point that you have to take care of. The settlement fund is required in all the stages. Either it's the PR application or the work permit application, as well as the business fund that is required in the PR application stage or the work permit application stage. Now, if you are not coming to Canada, you're still required to establish the business, right? So how can you establish the business if you don't have the financial capability to build that business? So the settlement fund is a thing. The financial proof for establishing your business is another thing. Even if they are on the same bank statement, I would say you provide one bank statement, okay, that include both of them. You have to explain to the officer, well, that amount is my settling fund, okay, that's my settlement fund, and that amount is the amount of investment that I will invest in my idea.
Interesting. Yeah, very, very reasonable answer. So another question again, I think that it is really related to the work permit application. Against documents recommended by the IRCC, it says that they need a detailed staffing plan. Could you please just to clarify a little bit about how to show a staffing plan to apply to satisfy IRCC?
Yeah, again, it's depend on the idea and the business. Sometimes you can find startups with a budget of 3 4 millions and they have only 3 employees. That's what they need, right? Sometimes we need more, sometimes we need less. So it depends on the business. The staffing plan is one of the things that you will provide in your work permit, and I would say you provide it somehow in your permanent residency application as well within the business plan. Okay, so it shows the officer what human resources that you will need to make that idea a successful idea in Canada.
Gotcha.
So, for example, you have an idea for an application, right? So that application needs uh, a developer, for example, an Android developer, right? Need a marketing or salesperson, needs whatever it needs according to your plan. So remember, you are the one who designed the main goal in your business plan. So you have to be reasonable when you are saying, I need these human resources to reach that goal. Clear enough?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's totally clear. Yeah, I understand exactly what you have said, and it makes sense as well. So the second question is again related to the work permit. Again, documents recommended by IRCC. They're asking a proof of your exploratory research. This could include details of supplier discussions, site selection, and exploratory visit and meetings. Do you think this is again my understanding, Ahmed? I think this is also like the first question. It relates
Yes.
to extension, not at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Okay. So the other one is does the property and the proof of funds of applicant spouses considered as a proof of settlement business funds?
That's a very common question, actually.
Yeah.
Now, the property is a physical asset, right? So you have to understand that the proof of fund needed is the liquid fund. Now, if you have the physical assets, that's a supportive thing. That's not the basic thing. That's a supportive thing that you say that to the officer, well, I have enough liquid funds, but I also have some property in case things go south. I have what it takes to be sure that the business will be established. But if I don't have the liquid funds and I have property, this will not take into account.
Mhm.
So the property is not a proof of fund.
Got you. So what about gold, silver? Many countries, the currency fluctuation is crazy. So people don't keep cash, and it is very common. And I know, and me and you, we are from the Middle East, and we know that this is very common.
Yes.
So gold, silver, and all these precious metals are considered as liquid
Okay.
cash.
So they are not considered as real estates, right?
Yeah.
But still they are commodities.
Mhm.
So the definition of them is commodities. The stocks, the precious metals are commodities, are not liquid funds.
Okay.
Even if you can liquidify them more quickly than a real estate, right? But
Yes.
still, they are not liquid funds.
Interesting. Okay, so the other question, and we still have time. Okay, so the other question is, please advise if it is safe and acceptable to use a venture studio, to design our startup. How much is an acceptable fee? Some are asking for hundreds of thousands. Is this normal? I think that you have gone through this before, but yeah, this is very common from many applicants who just like reach out to us. The numbers are becoming crazy, and some of them you have to pay hundreds of thousands just to get a business plan by the end of your agreement with them. So how do you see this?
Uh, I would say that having the assistance of uh, professional people to help you achieve your goal is a good thing, right? So the concept of having the assistance of a venture studio, it's okay. I don't have a problem with that. However, I have a problem with the unreasonable costs that some of the venture studios ask the candidates to pay. Okay, so you have to, shop around. You have to, if you don't know how to make a business plan, it's totally fine, and you can have the assistance of someone to help you in that business plan. But when you've been asked to pay 100,000 K for a business plan, That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But going back, Ahmed, to your first point, your first question, do the
Mhm.
government wants an entrepreneur or does the government wants an innovation? So the venture studio could provide you an innovative ideas. I have seen one of their catalogs, by the way. They just
Yeah.
like selling you a catalog and you just like explore which idea do you want like. So and you are not an entrepreneur, but you want to come to Canada. So I
Yeah.
think the venture studio is a tricky little bit, right? So you
Right.
have to be very careful. Careful. If you're gonna use them, you have to be really aware what is happening in the backstage, right? You have to be involved 100% in your business because the government, when it comes back asking you about this and that, they will never accept for the venture studio to answer. You are the one who has to answer, right?
Exactly. That's why through the presentation, I asked our amazing participant to be familiar with the terminology, to be involved in their business, even if they have um, the help of venture studio. They have to be involved in their business. And that's the expectation of the IRCC. The IRCC will not ask the venture studio. They will ask you,
Exactly.
and they
Exactly.
wait the answers from you directly. So
Exactly.
be aware of that.
Yeah. So the other question is, are there requirements to remain in the country you apply from while the application is being processed? Is it okay? I apply and I don't want to come through work permit. I just want to stay in my country until my PR. I want to come in the safe side. I want to play it safe, let's say. I don't want to risk it, move, and then my PR is rejected. So how do you see this?
Yes, totally fine. Completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. You have to apply only for the permanent residency application. You don't have to apply for the work permit application. It's optional. It's an advantage. It's not an obligation. Okay. So if you want to use that advantage, it's okay. If you don't want to use it, that's totally fine. However, that doesn't void the responsibility that you have to show a progress.
Yeah,
So there must be a progress even if you are overseas.
interesting.
Mhm.
The other question is, can an applicant change from essential to a non-essential after submitting the PR? I think you
Oh,
touched point on this. Yeah, yeah,
oh, that's
red flag.
yeah. When we spoke about the common refusal reasons, and we spoke about the changing in the circumstances, the alternations, and I mentioned that happened in a higher rate within the partners, right? Especially when you have many partners. So someone right now doesn't want to immigrate anymore. That's a complete change that could lead to a refusal, not only to the principal applicant or the essential applicant, to everyone.
You're right.
So that's a very crucial thing yeah, to be aware of. Um, I would say that any change should be minor, but any major change could lead to a refusal for the application.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And now, recalling what you have already said, please answer this one. So, when they're telling you that when applicant changed the idea, totally different idea,
Mhm.
after submitting the commitment certificate and the letter of support, who should inform the IRCC and what is the procedure of informing IRCC that we have pivoted our idea?
Hmm. Um, well, let's start from the beginning. You received the letter of support based on an idea
Yeah,
that has a specific business model. Now, you change the idea, and of course, you will change the business model. Now, the incubator should be informed first that you have the uh, you want to change it, you want to change everything, and some incubator might withdraw their letter of support based on that because it is not the same project anymore.
yeah,
And if in case the letter of support getting withdraw, the application, the PR application, will get refused. Now, if there if there are minor changes, that's fine. The incubator can change something, help you, guide you to change some of the features, for example, and that happens in every startup. We start with a specific idea, and while we grow the business, you try to add features, change the business model a little bit positively, and that's good. For example, we want to establish a business that targeting only people who are residing in Canada, and now we are expanding, and we have some potential clients in the Middle East, for example. So we want to add new languages, Arabic, Turkish, Persian, Hebrew, for example. So we want to add features. That's okay. No problem with that. However, if I want to change the business completely, the idea completely, that's not a change. That's a cancellation for the first business and establishing of a new business.
So let's say that this happened because it's already happened, okay? So, and we as a designated organization, we see that even the new business is really valid. It's okay.
Yeah.
So my question is, because I think that I know the app now, when you're, I've read it, I know who's sending this question. So, and we accepted the new idea. It's really a great one. And we have advised the applicant to go and inform IRCC by a web form.
Mhm.
And now, let me put it my question: should I resubmit a new commitment certificate and letter of support for this because it's a totally new application now, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Well, again, the work form can work based on the stage. So if the applicant, and I will answer that generally, okay, because
Yeah.
every little detail will lead to a different answer. So I will try to answer that in a general way. If the applicant receive a fine number, he can use the web form. If he didn't receive the fine number yet, that web form might be have low chances to go through. So in some cases, we might advise the clients to withdraw their application and apply a new application
Okay, interesting.
instead of waiting for 20 something month and then got refused.
Okay, I got you.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay, the other question is, what amount counts as a high salary in your offer of employment? Yeah, the question related to
Mhm.
that point that you were talking about the salary.
Yeah, well, it depends on the expectation, the financial projection. So if I, for example, expect uh, to, to pay myself 20K, okay, and I didn't pay myself these 20K because the business in the first stage didn't make uh, these 20K as a profit or as ability to pay these expenses. So that's a negative point. However, if I put 100K and the business made over 100K and I was able to pay myself, that's a good thing. So it depends on the situation, depends on the business and the financial projection. Um, from what we see, the majority of startups have a negative financial balance in the in the first year. So you have to expect that you might not be able to pay yourself a salary or a big salary in the beginning.
Yeah. And I
That's why
think this
it's
is,
good to avoid putting
yeah,
on.
I think, Ahmad, this is already valid. So I am an entrepreneur, and my first year I just like sacrifice my salary because I want to support my business. I think it's valid to have zero wages if the team member has all the capabilities and all the skills to run the business, right?
Right.
Because within
Yeah.
the first year, they're gonna use their settlement funds to support themselves, so they don't need an extra wages, right?
Exactly. Exactly. 100%.
Interesting. So this question, again, it relates to the previous question to change. I know this applicant. So they are asking if our team submitted our application last July,
Hmm.
but we pivoted last year and have informed North Forge and IRCC. Do you still have such possibility to be rejected? What the other things we can do? So again, it's the same team that we were talking about. They have changed 100% the idea. It's no more the one that we have supported, but we like the new idea.
Yeah.
And now they have informed by web form. They didn't take their AOR yet. They didn't take the acknowledgement of receipt. So I think that you have already get your advice, but please, I'm gonna leave it to you.
Yeah, again, it depends on the change. It depends on the time that has been passed since the application submitted. So a lot of factors here to decide whether the withdrawal is the best option, whether we should continue and explain to the IRCC that a change had been happened um, without the file number. Some of the web forms, and this is the only way that we can communicate with the immigration officer in the early stage. Maybe later you will have an email to communicate with the officer in Sydney office, but in the first stage we have only the web form as a mean of communication. And without that file number, it's hard to put that note in your file number, in your application, because there is no file number. There is no link yet on the system.
So Ahmed, basically, if I conclude what you are saying now, so basically for this specific situation, it is a mandatory or a must to withdraw and have a new application because the government will be really shocked. We have supported something and now it's a totally 100% different application, right?
Well, yes, if I see that the idea has been changed completely, and even if the incubator approved and issued a new letter of support for that new idea, this is a new application, because within the first application, you provide supportive document to empower your first idea. So when you change the idea, you don't have these supportive document relevant anymore. Maybe it based on the case. So I would say that the withdrawn here is the right option, especially when you have just a few months passed from the date of the submission of the application.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
I'm trying to be very careful not
yes,
to give an advice on withdraw the application without knowing all the details.
yes,
You
you're
know,
right.
as you know, devil in the details. So it's
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand you. Okay, so another question is, hi Ahmed, indeed an exciting session. Yeah, it's indeed exciting sessions. Thank you, Ahmed. Few quick questions. If crypto, I think, crypto-based idea are acceptable for is it okay? They are asking you, is the crypto-based ideas acceptable for the SUV program?
Well, the crypt-based idea is a very general concept. Uh, what do you mean by crypto-based idea? An idea that could accept cryptocurrency as a method of payment, for example. An idea that based on trading cryptocurrency, because that needs a license. You know, so it depends. Again, the details are very, very important.
Yeah, I think I understand why this question is raised because, we have a really good relationship with all designated organization, and within my discussion, many designated organization they don't support crypto-based ideas because it's a tricky sector, and yeah, it's a really tricky. And even we at Northforge, we are very, very careful on what kind of a crypto idea to accept because again, it's a really huge
Yeah.
risky
You know,
risky.
having an idea that has a cryptocurrency component in itself, it's okay.
Yeah.
But how this component work within the ecosystem of the idea is the most important thing to consider.
Yes, you're right.
Mhm.
So the rest of the question, I think it is irrelevant to this session. So I'm gonna skip it because this has to be like a financial question. So you have to have like a financial expert to answer this one. So I'm gonna skip the second part of this question. So the other one is how do we guarantee that our operations are acceptable by RICC?
Red
What
flag.
actions should we take to satisfy IRCC? And this is very common question. All the applicants, they are, I can feel them. I can hear them. They have like spend lots of time, efforts, money for this. So how do they know that what they are doing is what really IRCC wants?
Exactly, Nermin, exactly. When people are trying, especially hardworking people, especially hardworking entrepreneur, serious ones, who wants to immigrate to Canada, and they are requested to, to be involved in operations, to provide financial amount dedicated only for the projected business in Canada. They somehow want a kind of relief. As much as you work, as much as you're involved in the business, trying to make that business um, profitable, successful, um, contributing into the Canadian economy, you will have a high rate of success. And as you see, the approval rate for the startup visa applications is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not in comparison with other immigration, visas, but in for other temporary residency visas, it's very good. 78%. So these people are hardworking people who are involved, who are ready to show the officer that they are doing effort through the stage of the processing time. And one of the quote I heard before from one of my colleagues, it was a nice one actually. He told me that he believes that the RCC grant the permanent residency for the candidates not because they have a successful business, but because they are trying to build a successful business. And I found it very true. Yes,
Yes.
yes, you have to
Just
try to build a
yeah.
successful business. And by then, you have that assurance. I will not call it guarantee, but you have that assurance that you have a very good approval rate.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I agree 100% with you is that in the business field, it is accepted and expected to fail.
Yeah,
And this is very, the government understand that as well. But
yeah,
again, I 100% agree with you. The government will accept that you may fail at some point, but there's solutions. There's pivoting. That's why the designated incubators are there. We can help you in how to pivot the idea. And the other side is that, okay, you failed. Okay, show me the steps. Show me that you did something, and then okay, it's out of your hands that you have failed. So failure in the business does not mean that you will not be accepted for the PR, right? But not showing a proper operation will be the main rejection factor, right, Ahmed?
right, right, completely right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So Ahmed, we have still lots of questions, and I want also to go to the networking. I don't know how is your time. Do you want us to go through because we still have a really good amount of questions for you, or you want to go to the networking so that you will network with our applicants? There's lots of questions in here. We
Um,
still
uh,
have over 40 audience are still waiting with us.
yeah, I would say that we can take um, more 2 or 3 questions, and then we can go to the next.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me go through things that is not anonymous. Okay, so this one, if the PR rejected
Mhm.
because of one of the applicants,
Mhm.
does the team can proceed without him or her? So I think this is very related to essential or non-essential, right?
Okay, so if the application got rejected, you cannot proceed. You will apply from the beginning. You will apply again. Um, the thing that makes you can proceed is to go to the federal court and try to reopen the application. But if the file got rejected, okay, it's a final decision. Now, before being rejected because of one of the applicants, you will receive a fairness procedure letter, which inform you that uh, there is an intention from the officer to refuse the file because 1, 2, 3, right? Because they need these documents, because they need this information, and you have that amount of time, 30 days, 7 days, the deadline, to provide this information and documents. Now, if you don't provide this information, you will have to expect the rejection. If you provide this information, you will expect a discretion maybe from the officer to pursue the file. Now, this happen if that candidate, that partner, is not the essential applicant. But if that applicant was the essential applicant and got refused because of inadmissibility, for example, and I will let you, I will give you one of the examples for that, for inadmissibility. Now, all the candidates will automatically be rejected as well, and they have to apply again without him or her. Now, one of the reasons that someone can be inadmissible to Canada, and that's a real thing, by the way. Someone apply for a Canadian visa, and within the application, he choose to answer that he didn't apply to Canada or he didn't been refused in any Canadian or U.S. Uh, visa before. The question is about the Canadian visa or any other countries. So he has a previous refusal from Canada or the US, but he didn't mention it. And because of that, he got inadmissible letter. He now wants to apply for a startup visa application. And he has partners. But these partners don't know that he is inadmissible to Canada, that he got rejected because he lied or hid, or maybe he was unaware of the question. And that candidate, the essential candidate, didn't know that being inadmissible means that you cannot apply again to Canada for 5 years, for example. That's one of the, repetitive things. So when you have a partner, you have to confirm that they are not inadmissible to Canada, especially when you are not the essential applicant.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility on the essential applicants. And this also, I always shared this with our applicants. The essential is have like a huge responsibility toward the team. And yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of things happen by mistake in a good faith.
yes,
The sometimes the essential applicant doesn't want to hide anything. He just doesn't know that he's inadmissible.
see,
Yeah,
it's tricky. That's why maybe the importance of having an immigration lawyer at a certain stage of the application, because they have like these tricky, tips and maybe they have access to things to the government level that we as incubators do not have it. So maybe you could advise in this let's say domain of acceptance or not non-acceptable acceptance. Okay. So I have a question. So hi Ahmed, I would like to know, is it predictable what kind of work permit officer may give us? Is it closed or open?
Yeah. There have been some discussions last year about changing in the immigration policy regarding the work permit through the startup visa program, and it changed from closed to open and extend the validity to 3 years. But these were just discussions. The law and the regulations up to the moment that we are talking is that you will grant it a closed work permit. Closed work permit means that you allowed to work for your business only, not for anybody else. Okay, and that closed work permit has a validity time of 1 year, and you can extend that work permit based on some of the documents that we discussed during that session.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So I have another case here of one of the applicants. So he says, my two dependent sons were both born in Canada and they hold the Canadian passport apparently. So they don't need to apply for the PR, but should still be counted in the number of family members joining you to Canada.
Okay, so when we have a family member who is Canadian or permanent resident, we don't include him in the as an accompanying family member, but we declare the information.
Mhm.
There is a trick that you can use to know if you are including them in the right way or not, which is the governmental fees. If you see that there is extra governmental fees for them, that's mean that you include them in the wrong section, because now they are included as a companion family member.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really interesting answer, which lead to another minor question. So if they are again Canadians, do they all, if they are not counted as accompanying dependents, do they have to be included in the settlement amount of fund?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
interesting. Perfect. So Ahmed, I know that you want to go to the networking, and me too. I want you to communicate, but we have lots of questions are still coming and coming. So it's according to your generosity. You want to take another 10 minutes of your time? It's really, I'm learning because there is a really interesting questions and you are very informative and calm and, explain everything. So
Thank you.
I'm really learning. So I'm going to be greedy and take 10 minutes of your time.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So the question is, while filing the PR, we were in a province A, for example, and the company was registered in the same province. Now we have some business prospects in a province B. Do we have to register okay, this is our registration incorporation. Okay, this is irrelevant. So maybe I will answer this one, Mir Anwar, later on. So this is irrelevant to the immigration process. So the other one is, how
It,
do you see? Yeah.
I can
Go ahead.
add a little bit of information about this, which is the thing that is relevant to the immigration, not to the business. So the immigration doesn't expect you to live in the same province. You are allowed to live in another province. However, you have to show that you can manage the operation on the day-to-day basis, even if you are in another province. So it's your responsibility to show that. Another thing that, according to the province that you listed in your PR application, you will receive your landing paper. I recommend that you land on the same province which is listed on your landing paper.
Interesting. Okay, the other question is, how do you see the solopreneur if there is only one applicant in
Mhm.
the startup visa application? Is this a good? Is this bad? Is it a potential for them to be, for example, now they are alone, so now opportunity for to have more job creation in Canada is more. How do you see this?
Okay. So in the startup visa application, we regarding the partnership, we used to avoid saying bad and good. There is no bad and there is no good. You might have an idea and it's bad to apply alone. And you might have an idea and it's bad to apply with many partners. It depends on the idea. For example, you have a great idea, you have the funds, and you have the entrepreneurial skills, and you don't do a very good staffing plan, right? You are depending on yourself to make many tasks that will make the business happen. So you will be responsible for the coding, you will be responsible for the sales, you will be responsible for the marketing, and you can do that. You have the skills, but it's not convincing. It's not convincing. So having, especially when you have a big project. So if you have a partner who will manage, for example, the the marketing or the sales or the web developing, and you will managing the business, that will be a good thing. So it depends on the idea and the scale of the business.
Interesting. Okay, so another question related to applying for the work permit. So for the work permit, another document is this is proof. Okay, a proof you can do the work you indicate in the offer of employment. So can you elaborate what do they mean that how they can prove? Is it like a resume? Is it an experience? What do you recommend?
Yeah. So the resume is one of the things that which is already requested, and it's important to include within your work permit application, and I would say within your PR application if you can as well. Now, the proof that you can do the business based on two things, main things. Um, the first one is the previous education and the previous experience. Now, you have to understand what it means by that question. They want to see if you have the knowledge required to operate that business. And to gain any knowledge to operate the business, there are two things: the education, the previous education, or the previous experience. So try to convince the officer that this idea requires a specific amount of knowledge that can be gained by having that degree, for example. And that degree, which I have, will help me to establish my business. Or I have that much amount of years of experience in this field of industry, and I dealt before with, let's say, a Canadian entities, and I can, when I come to Canada, to establish that business because I'm aware of the market. I can do that.
Interesting. Okay, another question related to what documentation do we need to provide for our travel history? Should we list all our trips? For instance, if I worked in another country for 5 years, do I need to mention every vacation trip as well?
Okay, so the travel history is one of the supportive documents that I recommend to attach within your work permit application. You don't have to be worried about it in the uh, PR application because there is a section for the travel history, so you will be requested to fill it out. But in the uh, work permit application, you have to provide the countries that you visited before. Maybe you can make a nice table with the name of the country, the duration, and the purpose of visit, and that will be good. If you have the old stamps or the old visas, that also will be very, very good to attach.
Interesting. So this is an interesting also question. So they're asking, is all listed incubators on IRCC website has the same reputation, or there is some discrimination, or maybe some like prefer? How do they choose which incubator to go with?
Yeah, well, I I wouldn't put it that way. I don't think that there is a discrimination from specific incubator toward a specific group of people. That's a big thing. I don't think so. However, I believe that there are some um, incubators that I would say I personally will feel confident when my clients are with them. These are the incubators that do their due diligence toward the idea. So if the incubator, for example, just approve the idea without any knowing about the idea, any knowing about the the business plan or any information, I will have my doubt. But if the incubator trying to know more about the idea, interview the candidate, that's a good incubator that will help my client to establish his business or her business, right? So it depends on the way of communication between the incubator and the client. I wouldn't say that there is discrimination, but I would say that there are good incubator who will try their best to their due diligence toward the idea, and if they find that the idea doesn't provide a good economical benefit to Canada, they will refuse simply to provide the letter of support. Or if they find that that idea is a very simple idea, maybe it has intellectual property registered somewhere, or if it's repetitive by many clients before, and that's why they refuse to provide the letter of support. That's also normal, and they will say that these kind of incubators are good,
You're
right?
right.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's the easier, the more risky.
Yes, of course, because in in the stage of getting the letter of support from the incubator, you are trying to do the SWOT analysis. You know, the SWOT analysis that you provide in your business plan, your weakness points, your threats, and your power point. You will find these points in this stage, and this is how you will build uh, a successful business in the future.
Interesting. So, Ahmed, you are very generous with us. So, thank you very much. I'm going to have only one question, which is really purely immigration question, and then I'm sorry for all the other question. I'm going to save them, and then later on, maybe we're going to have another discussion to answer them, and then maybe we go to the networking for 5 minutes if you want to. If anyone wants to have like a quick chat, he's very generous with us. So I'm so sorry, Ahmed, but the questions are endless. You have to see my private chat. It's endless. So I'm gonna have only one question for now is, can a refugee in USA and living with family and his refugee status for last more than 10 years, are they eligible to apply for the SUV program in Canada?
Well, that's a very tricky question because um, to answer this question, I have to provide some information about the uh, being a refugee in another country and applying for a PR in Canada. And unfortunately, I don't have the IRP license, which is relevant to refugee, provide information for refugees. So I'm really sorry I can't answer this question.
Interesting. And this is what I like about Mr. Ahmed. He knows the answer, by the way, but he never tap into other people, fields. And this is why we really appreciate working with Ahmed. He's very honest, straightforward, and we are very glad to have this working relationship with him. So thank you, Ahmed, very much for being a trustful person to work with in Canada, which is sometimes tricky and rare to find people who are really straightforward in the immigration field. So as I told you, I have lots, so I'm not going to share any more. So I'm so sorry for any question that were not answered yet. I'll try my best to copy paste them and then find an answer later on. Now we're going to move to the networking. Now we have taken too much of Ahmed time, so we're going to go to the networking space for maybe maximum 5 minutes. If anyone wants to catch up with Ahmed in a quick question one-to-one, this would be great. So there's going to be a table named Ahmed. Ahmed will be there. Another table named North Forge. I will be there if anyone is interested to ask about our processes. And then this will end, and the session will be ending in 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you very much for everyone. We still have more than 45 people with us in here. So thank you very much, everyone. And we're going to see you in another roundtable later on. And maybe in one of those roundtables, we're going to invite Ahmed once again to be our guest speaker. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.